The death toll rises to 1,297 victims after a powerful earthquake in Haiti. President Mohammad Ashraf Ghani has left Afghanistan amid Taliban offensive. An explosion at a warehouse killed at least 28 people and burned around 80 more in Lebanon. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm Gladys Quesada. And now we begin with the news. A major 7.2 magnitude earthquake struck Haiti on Saturday. The quake hit the west of the country with its epicenter about 8 kilometers from the town of Petit-Trou-de-Naps, according to the U.S. Geological Survey. Heavy ground shaking can be expected in the western peninsula, and serious damage to structurally weak buildings and other infrastructure is likely to occur. The tremor was felt all over Haiti, Jamaica, Cuba, and the Dominican Republic. Images on social media have shown local residents organizing rescue efforts after the earthquake. Residents of Port-au-Prince fled their homes after a second 5.2 magnitude earthquake was registered in the same region a couple of hours later. In 2010, a similar earthquake killed more than 200,000 people and caused extensive damage to infrastructure and the economy of Haiti. Residents of Les Cayes in southwestern Haiti spent Saturday night in tents at the football field after a devastating earthquake. The families that lost their homes or found them too unsafe to stay in recovered a few belongings and brought them to the field. The disaster added to the plight of Haitians who were already grappling with the coronavirus pandemic, a presidential assassination, and a wave of gang violence. Haiti's Prime Minister Ariel Henry has declared a state of emergency after the powerful earthquake that struck the Caribbean nation.
The government decided this morning to declare a state of emergency for 1 month following this disaster. We call on the population to show solidarity with each other. Let's avoid panic in the face of this earthquake. All the government and the structures of civil protection are mobilized, and we ask the population to redouble their efforts and precautions, especially if there are aftershocks.
Meanwhile, the heads of the country's civil protection agency has announced the death toll of 1,297 victims as the nation begins counting the cost of the disaster. And Pope Francis has expressed his solidarity with the people of Haiti, hit by an earthquake on Saturday, calling for help from the international community.
In the last few hours, a strong earthquake has occurred in Haiti, causing numerous deaths, injuries, and extensive material damage. I would like to express my solidarity to the dear people who have been hard hit by the earthquake.
The Mexican armed forces have sent medicine and food to Haiti. Right after the Saturday's earthquake, Mexico's President Andrés Manuel López Obrador ordered to prepare humanitarian aid for Haiti. The Mexican Foreign Minister informed on his Twitter account that the first shipment contains medicine and food. Other countries of the region, like Argentina, Peru, and Chile, have also showed their willingness to help the Caribbean country. Also, the 253 Cuban doctors deployed in Haiti went to the earthquake zone to treat the wounded and to adapt a hospital in Port-au-Prince that has been used until now for COVID-19 patients. The Venezuelan government has also sent humanitarian aid to Haiti. A first shipment deported from Caracas with more than 30 tons of humanitarian aid to the Caribbean nation. The donation consisted of food supplies to help the Haitian people. The Venezuelan Interior Minister, Carmen Melendez, emphasized the government's commitment to provide all possible collaboration to help the people, also all the affected by the earthquake.
We are about to send this plane of Conviasa, the plane that bears the name Simón Bolívar, our liberator. It is carrying 30 tons of humanitarian aid, supplies for the people of Haiti. These 30 tons include food, drinking water, and medicine. More than 31,000 medicines that go in this first shipment, fulfilling the intentions of our President Nicolás Maduro to bring humanitarian support as soon as possible. According to the needs and requirements, we could later enable a ship to take vehicles, but at this moment, this Conviasa plane is going to take off in spite of the fact that Conviasa, the state company, is sanctioned. Nonetheless, here it is taking humanitarian aid to Haiti.
In other news, the first round of dialogues between the Venezuelan government and opposition sectors has concluded in Mexico. The Norwegian foreign minister tweeted, as facilitators of Venezuela's negotiation process, Norway has reported that constructive meetings have been held between both parties and that the process guidelines have been respected. The statement also thanks the international community for supporting the dialogue process. A new dialogue meeting will be held on September 3rd in Mexico. The Cuban Health Minister, José Ángel Portal Miranda, informed that the main oxygen plant had broke down in the last few days, causing a shortage of oxygen in the nation. Miranda also stated that the national government decided to create a governmental attention post to solve and guarantee the production of medicinal oxygen.
The country's leadership has decided to create a national governmental post, and also at the provincial level, made up of different organizations that contribute to the solution, to expedite solutions that may be present and to be able to mitigate as much as possible the effects that this problem may generate. In this national management post, there are important organizations, such as the Ministry of Industries, which is in charge of production, the Revolutionary Armed Forces, the Interior Ministry, the Transportation Ministry, the Foreign Trade Ministry, the Health Ministry, and other organizations that may be necessary in order to look for alternatives.
We'll be right back after this very short break, so don't go away. Welcome back. In Afghanistan, Taliban declared end of war after taking over Kabul and called for dialogue with Afghan actors and the international community. On the country's first day under Taliban control, security in the Afghan capital and most of the country dawned in the hands of insurgents who patrolled the streets and controlled the movement of people. The Taliban entered the presidential palace on Saturday after President Ashraf Ghani fled the country amid the rebels' rapid advance in the capital. The country's collapse occurred in the matter of weeks after the U.S. and NATO forces began the final phase of withdrawal in May, handing over all their military bases to the Afghans.
We rushed to the border and crossed it here in Termes. Now my entire family are left at the other side of the border. I am lost and I don't know what to do. I left everything behind, house, shops, work.
And the head of the Afghan National Reconciliation Council, Abdullah, confirms that the Afghan president, Mohammad Ashraf Ghani, left the nation and his whereabouts remain unknown. Abdullah also urged the Afghan security forces to maintain law and order in the city and asked the people inside the city to remain calm. Earlier on Sunday, Taliban fighters occupied the outskirts of Kabul and sporadic gunfires could be heard in parts of the city. The Taliban issued a statement after occupying the outskirts of Kabul, saying they don't plan to take Kabul by force.
The former president of Afghanistan left the country, and left it in a harsh situation. God hold him to account, and the Afghan people will have their judgment on him. In the current situation, all I want from you is that God bless you to keep calm. I call on the defense and security forces to cooperate in providing security. I call on the Taliban forces not to enter Kabul and give a chance to talks. God help that the situation does not change unintentionally, and there will be no loss of life and property.
Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said his country will work with Pakistan to stabilize the situation in Afghanistan to stem an influx of refugees from the war-torn country.
Turkey is facing a growing migration wave of Afghans transiting through Iran. We will continue to make efforts to bring stability to the region, starting with Afghanistan.
İstikrara kavuşturulması için son dönemde
Pakistan has vital duties to bring peace and stability to Afghanistan, where conflicts have intensified recently. Only in this way can we dispel concerns that growing instability is triggering a new wave of immigration from Afghanistan.
ortadan kaldırabilir.
UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson has commented that the UK government will try to avoid prematurely recognizing a new government, which is expected to be announced in Kabul after the Afghan president fled the country.
It's fair to say that the US decision to pull out has accelerated things, but this has been in many ways something that has been a chronicle of an event foretold. We've known for a long time that this was the way things were going, and as I said before, this is a mission whose military component really ended for the UK in 2014. What we're dealing with now is the very likely advent of a new regime in Kabul. We don't know exactly what kind of a regime that will be. What we want to do is make sure that we as the UK pull together our international partners, our like-minded partners, so that we deal with that regime in a concerted way.
At least 9 people have died and many injured after a truck attack in the Pakistani city of Karachi. 20 people were riding in the truck returning from a wedding ceremony when the attack happened. An initial investigation suggests the attackers followed the truck and then threw explosive devices at one side of the truck. No one has claimed responsibility for the attack and the motive is still unknown.
After attending a wedding party when the blast occurred, we initiated the investigation to find out the cause of the blast. And I can confirm 9 people have died in a blast. People were coming after attending.
Thousands of people attended the funeral prayers for the victims of the truck attack. The leader of the local branch of the Islamist party attended the funeral, condemning the brutal killing and demanding the immediate arrest of those who killed the innocents. 13 coffins were presented during the funeral prayers, following reports that some of the injured had died during treatment. An explosion at a warehouse where fuel was illegally stored killed at least 28 people and burned around 80 more in northern Lebanon. The Lebanese Red Cross said a fuel tanker exploded and its teams recovered 20 bodies from the site in the border village of Tlail. In a statement, it said it evacuated 79 people who were injured or suffered burns in the blast. A Lebanese military official said the explosion occurred after the army confiscated a warehouse where about 60,000 liters of gasoline were stored, and the order was given to distribute the fuel to residents of the area.
What happened yesterday, the revolutionists found 60,000 liters of fuel at George Rashid's house. So they told the army to seize the fuel and distribute them to patrol stations. They stayed from the afternoon until 2 a.m. and kept delaying. The army withdrew and the people started beating each other up. George Rashid's son showed up and opens fire at them, and this is what happened.
And a mob set on fire a property near Tripoli thought to belong to the owner of the warehouse that exploded. The large group gathered and threw missiles at the house, which caught fire and had black smoke pouring from its windows before security forces attended to control the situation. Torrential rain have triggered a mudslide and more floods across Japan, leaving 3 people dead and forcing the evacuation of dozens of residents. A mudslide early Sunday hit a house in Okaya City, burying 8 residents. 3 of the people were dead when rescue workers found them, and 2 others were injured, according to the rescue team. By Sunday, dozens of people in flooded areas in the southern Kyushu region, as well as Hiroshima, were rescued. More than 500 homes around the country have been damaged by floods and mudslides.
I heard a cracking sound, so I went out on the balcony. It was stinky, and then the mudslide came all the sudden.
And we have more stories coming up after this final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back. In Hungary, at least 8 people have died and dozens injured after a bus crash and flip over early Sunday. Authorities in Turkish said the crash happened near Sabara Tayan on the M7 motorway, which runs between the capital Budapest and Lake Balaton at around 5 a.m. local time. A video released by the Hungarian National Disaster Agency showed firefighters pulling passengers out of the wreckage of the overturned bus. In addition to the 8 deaths, another 8 people sustained serious injuries and 40 had minor injuries. Protesters took to the streets of France for the 5th consecutive weekend to oppose the country's health pass, now required for everyday activities. In France, individuals currently need a health pass to access cinemas, cafes, or trains. The push by French President Emmanuel Macron for the health pass, which is a proof of either vaccination, a recent negative test, or recovery from COVID-19, has sparked angry protests across the country. So far, an estimated 46 million French people have had at least one vaccination, and just under 39 million are fully vaccinated. The country is on track to reach its target of 50 million people vaccinated at least once by the end of the month.
I am against the health pass, not necessarily against this vaccine. Even if we can ask ourselves questions about the fact that it was put into circulation very quickly, we can ask ourselves questions. I find this health pass an infringement on freedom, a disproportionate measure. It's segregation. I am not against vaccines, like the tetanus one. We agree there's mortality. I got stung 10 times, no problem. I am even a bit of a hypochondriac. And now you have to stop messing around. COVID is a disease that affects fragile people. The issue is the places in intensive care. There are 8,000 of them. Who is it that has been cutting the places for 15 years now? We are asking ourselves this question. The yellow vests.
Several hundred Israelis have gathered in Tel Aviv to protest against calls by the authorities for all citizens to be vaccinated against the coronavirus. The protests have been growing in number in recent weeks, as the country's top officials have increased calls for citizens to get vaccinated amid the rising number of infections. Israel was one of the world's leaders in vaccinating its population early this year, but in recent weeks it had seen a surge in cases of the Delta variant, even among those who are already vaccinated.
Here to say that we're not willing to participate in a medical experiment. We're not lab rats. Nobody is the right. We didn't give the right for anyone to take us and use us for a medical experiment. Nobody told us that we participate in an experiment. No medical organization in the world has approved this 3rd shot that you took today. And if you want to take it, that's fine. That's your choice. But there's no reason for coercion on anybody else. We are here to say...
A suspected Christian militia attacked a convoy of 90 Muslims in Nigeria's Central Plateau state, leaving at least 22 people dead. The victims had just partaken in the annual Sirk, a ceremony, a prayer session practiced by many Muslims. A security operation saved 21 people at the scene and led to the arrest of 6 suspects. Northwest and central Nigeria have for years struggled with violence between mainly Muslim nomadic ranchers and Christian farmers over control of resources, water and land. And 2 of the last known survivors of the 1921 race massacre in Tulsa, United States stepped back on the African soil for the first time in Ghana. Viola Ford Fletcher, a 107-year-old woman, and her brother Hugh, who is 100 years old, are now in Ghana with their families. The Tulsa race massacre took place between May 31st and June 1st, 1921, when mobs of white residents attacked black residents and destroyed homes and businesses of the Greenwood district in Tulsa. Up to 300 African Americans were killed in the attack. The visit is part of a homecoming campaign organized by social media platform Our Black Truth.
This is one of the biggest historic African diaspora that has come back to us. And when President made the announcement on Beyond the Return 2018 in DC and celebrating Beyond the Return in 2019, we never thought of having one of our siblings who was forcibly taken away, generation from that, to come out 107 years old and have the passion and interest to want to visit Ghana, not only by herself, but also bringing the younger brother along who is 100 years old.
It's my first time on the continent of Africa, and I'm just thrilled to be here. My family is happy to be here, and I hope to make friends and learn a lot.
I think this is...
And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For TeleSUR English, I'm your host, Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.